ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah, so my name is Lindsay Amilian, and I am a board certified holistic health practitioner as well as a certified holistic nutritionist. And I'm also a fitness instructor, but I focus mostly on dance fitness.
Yes.
And I am a wife, and I have two little boys that keep me on my toes and are very energetic. And yeah, so that's kind of like a quick rundown of who
Yeah,
I am.
I love it. And I mean, I haven't even seen your kids live. I see them all the time on Facebook, but we're just reconnecting now from when we knew each other back then, and that was before you had any kids. So it's been a while, but I love
It's
to
been a
see though.
yeah.
I love to see the when you do reconnect with someone who is going so strong, and then you reconnect with them after several years and still on the same pace, still going, only adding to and getting better. And that's just what I see in you. And so I commend you in that. And on multiple levels, new levels like the family dynamic and growing in education and growing in influence. And so I love to see all of that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I know. I was thinking the other day, how long has it been since I've taught at your studio
I
that
know.
you
I think
had?
it's 6 years or something.
It was probably 6 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man, it was I was so thankful for you because I tried to teach Zumba one time, and it was a raging success in my book because I didn't lose any members over it. But now I'm glad I didn't have to do that on a regular basis. So.
It's a different kind of a world, isn't it? I always tell people there's the type of fitness instructor that has to get up and perform while they're teaching, and then there's the instructor who, I mean, both are good, but one has to really demonstrate, and one
Yep.
is really good about verbal cueing and instructing. But
Yeah,
yeah, Zumba, dance, fitness, hip hop, cardio, whatever you want to call it, is very much, yeah, you better put yourself on the stage and be ready to do it with them.
exactly, exactly. Regardless, like you said, regardless of the different type of trainer or coach and the different, um, goal of the fitness that people are in, whether it's Zumba and they're trying to just burn calories, lose weight, have fun, or they're actually training for an event like a bodybuilding competition or a marathon. I mean, when you talk about fitness, it's so diverse. And I was actually talking to a coach the other day about how you have to define fitness for some people because they say they want to get in shape or they want to get fit. And you're like, what do you mean when you say that though? And but regardless, what I was just thinking about is how you have to lead and the demand that's on you as a coach and trainer. And so, talk for a minute about that dynamic as a leader in this industry in this field. Where do you feel is the greatest need? I mean, it's unique in this time, like we're talking about going online, but even besides this unique time, what do you feel is the greatest need just in our culture when it comes to health and fitness?
You know, it's a actually good time for raising up, I think, leaders in this realm.
Yeah,
And so when you're asking, what does that kind of cause us to, what is that definition, I guess, is what you're saying, or what would define that? This is a good time where I am feeling personally a huge calling from God to almost like rise up even bigger. There
mm,
is so much responsibility from my viewpoint on coaches, on fitness instructors,
yeah,
on leaders right now, because what we're seeing is a huge rise. And maybe you're seeing this too, Jake, but I'm seeing so many people feeling anxious, feeling stressed,
yeah,
feeling almost depressed.
right,
We're isolated, so we're not even in our communities, but we've also lost what a lot of people do, which is fitness as their therapy. And
right,
I mean, we're speaking what mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And so I have felt in the last few weeks not only um, a really big push for myself to encourage people physically online and fitness classes, but I have found people where they'll reach out to me saying, I don't think you understand how much I've needed this. I have felt so down. I have felt so alone since I'm isolated right now that it's almost feeding people spiritually, mentally, emotionally as well.
Yeah.
And so it's really digging deep for myself to figure out, how do I lead a class where I find people and I include them in a way where they're on a screen, I'm on a screen. How do I make them feel really welcome, call them by their name, tell them we're going to do this program together. I need you to stick with me. But I really make it a point to make sure I'm engaging with them in the comments, because that could be the only interaction that someone's having with other people, and it's just through online. We
Right.
have that responsibility as fitness instructors and coaches day to day, physically, whether it's, kids or adults, you can talk to them face to face and encourage them. But online, I've come across several people where they're like, that's the only contact I have in a
Wow.
day. And so if we don't make that connection with them right now and make them feel loved, make them feel encouraged, to me personally, I have felt more of that responsibility lately.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, it is a call and it's a responsibility. And, I can't separate. I mean, and I think that any wise trainer won't try to separate the dimensions of a person. I call them dimensions, the spirit, soul, body dimension. And it's impossible to train your body separate from your mind, your will, and your emotions. And then I believe it's connected even deeper to your spirit and who you identify with as in your spirit. And so I totally agree, and I feel like it is. We are feeling a vulnerability in our culture right now, but I believe probably it's exposing what's always been there. Um, what happens whenever things shift like this, and your security blankets are taken away, your typical places of meeting are taken away. It really reveals who you are, where you are as an individual, but also reveals where your real community has always been. And unfortunately, I hate that, but unfortunately, I think a lot of our communities are being revealed as superficial.
Mhm.
And you really know your true friends because they're the ones who call you in times of need. And so, you show yourself as a true friend to the people and a true leader whenever you're saying, no, I value you as a person, and I don't just want you to show up to my class. I want to engage with you and find out how you're doing. But I feel like it's so important. Community is huge. Community is huge to our personal success and well-being. And I love that you emphasize that and that you're encouraging that and building that. Community is a place where you belong. It's a place of belonging. And so when people come into your community, it's so important to recognize them and say, hey, I know your name. How are you doing? That's really how you build community. And I think more than ever, we need that. And we're discovering new ways to do community online. And I think, nothing ever replaces flesh to flesh and face to face. But we're doing the best we can. And I think we need it more now than ever.
I think you're right. And I've always built my classes upon the first thing that I say is, it doesn't matter, specifically mine's dance fitness. So I'll say, it doesn't matter if you have two left feet. It doesn't matter if you have rhythm. It
Right.
doesn't matter if you're a professional dancer, you've never danced in your life. This class is for you.
Yeah.
This class is for all of us, whether you're beginner, whether you're advanced. This class is where you belong. So that way, it's not even really about necessarily the class that I'm teaching, but it's more so, you're welcome here. This is like a family. So step in, don't even have hesitation. And you're right, it's become harder, I think, online to
Yeah.
sit there on the screen and say, well, I can't see you, but you are still welcome here. Please keep coming and checking in weekly when we have those classes. And you're right, keeping them engaged, because I can't see them face to face. So what do I need to do to, yes, call them by their name, tell them I expect them to come back every single week, check in with me. And even throughout the class, I'll come back over to the screen and check in, say, type in, are you still here? Give me emoji, a love emoji if you are still here and you're still with me. Because yeah, they could easily just sit there and watch you or sign off and you wouldn't know if they're there or not. So it's like,
I know.
how do I keep you engaged? You're right. Like, how do I encourage you? How do I make you feel like you're here physically? So I do feel like for coaches and fitness instructors, we have more of a responsibility right now. And it's encouraging to me, because I find I love a good challenge. And so if
Yeah.
I need to find better ways to connect with people and really encourage them, because we can sometimes get a little complacent, I think,
Mm.
especially if we have them face to face. So to me, I'm kind of bringing this as new opportunity. Like, we're going to make lemonade out of lemons. And so what do I need to do to dig deeper and find what gifts God has instilled within me and almost bring them more to light? And does that mean I need to get a little bit more extroverted on the screen so that people feel an experience? And I'm really big on making things an experience, because the more you can do that, the more you engage them to want to come back. So it's not even necessarily about how good is the coach, how good is the fitness instructor, how good is the music, how good is what you're teaching. But if you make them feel like that was the coolest thing I've ever been to and I want more of it, that's where you draw them in. That's where you keep bringing them back. And so then it's not just cool fitness class, but it's like, oh my gosh, I want to go hang out with them again. That was
Yeah,
really fun.
exactly. Well, I think it's a great promo for your class and your training, but it's also great advice to coaches who are trying to work through this and try to figure out all this uncharted territory. So the good stuff right there. Speak for a second to moms, okay? Because you're a mom, you're juggling family life, and this isn't just your fitness time. This is your business as well. And so, talk to moms about how to adapt and how to make it through this hard time.
Yeah, and this is the part where it's like, I hope you wouldn't have me on a Zoom call if I weren't authentic, right? And
That's
if I
right.
weren't real. So to all the moms out there, I'm just gonna say I'm with you. I will speak from a heart of vulnerability, where I will say this has been really hard on me. This has been very challenging for me.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of moms out there. If you're out there and maybe you homeschool, maybe you're home full time with the kids and you've adapted to some schedule where maybe you have one or multiple of your kids and you are really good at juggling the nap time, the feeding, finding an hour to yourself where you get a fitness class in or a workout in your garage, or you get to go, whatever that looks like. And then I think that there's the mom that may work full time, and this is a big adjustment for her because maybe her work has been shut down to where she's working at home, and she's figuring out, how do I work from home and balance with my children and still make sure you're putting yourself as a priority for at least 30 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
That's something for me that I tell other moms, that it doesn't matter what your day looks like. If you don't have 30 minutes or an hour to at least invest back into yourself and fill your cup in lots of different ways,
Mm-hmm.
you will sink fast. And I will say that this last 2 weeks, I have felt myself sink a little bit.
Right.
Number one, I have first experienced that I'm not spending enough time with the Lord to refill my cup,
Yeah.
because I'm struggling trying to find, where does that go right now? I am home full time with both boys, when one of them used to go to preschool, and I had that nap time with the second one, and I could do my quiet time with God. I could get my workout in the garage, or I could just sit down and close my eyes
Right.
and take a breather. I mean, whatever moms have to do out there. So I think from just going off my own experience and watching my demeanor in the last 2 weeks, because I've almost just been lost. Like, I'm thrown off my curveball here on what
Yeah.
my day and schedule is supposed to look like. So the priority for me moving forward, and the best encouragement that I could give, is if I don't start my personal day off with a little bit of filling myself up with God, I don't care if it's a worship song, if it's time in the Word, I have to be prepared to be able to handle my day when this is new territory for me.
Yeah.
And then I need little breaks. And so moms don't need to feel guilty that you don't have to entertain your children full time or make them be creative and play. If you need 30 minutes to do anything, let's say a garage workout, let's just say to quiet time, there's got to be something we can do to put our kids, give them some Legos, give them some Barbies, whatever you do to help get that. I would say that's the best thing I could offer, because if we are pouring from an empty cup, we don't know how long this is going to go, right? Like, it could be a month, it could be more than that. And so for myself, I don't know how I could keep going unless I start rearranging my schedule and make some priorities, because this is different for me too. I'm used to being able to work
Right.
online a few hours a day while my son naps, and so this is uncharted waters for me too.
Yeah. Yeah, for all of us, exactly. Sometimes, you even have those moments where all of a sudden it feels like there's free time, but I don't know what to do with that. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's where the planning is so critical, of having things in place to say, okay, if an hour does open up, maybe the kids do fall asleep and they have a nap, how am I going to maximize that time? And I think it's important to have a list handy where you can reach and grab it and say, okay, these are my to-do lists. These are the things that need to get done. So they're asleep. I'm going to grab this to-do list and get it done. And nothing is more important, like you said, I love it, is filling the cup and getting filled spiritually in the word, in worship, and prayer, because that is the place of life, the wellspring of life. The candle of the man is the spirit of the man. And if that goes out, then really you're depending on your own self effort, and that always has a limit to it. You have a gas tank when it comes to yourself. I tell people this all the time, is like your flesh has a gas tank and it will get empty. Your spirit is limitless, it's infinite, it's connected to the eternal God. And so, but it's learning how to live from that place. And so I'm training myself too, constantly, to live from the place of the spirit. That's this limitless supply, this endless river where you never get thirsty. Jesus said, drink of this water, you'll never get thirsty. Eat this bread, you'll never get full. I mean, it's just a constant. So, how does this overflow into not only how you train, but in working with people? Because this is a constant question I ask myself as well. As I'm working with people, I'm always looking to see that connection between whatever I'm working with and the spirit, because we know that is the ultimate, that's the most important thing as believers, is how am I going to connect this to the eternal thing, to the spirit man. And I don't know, just want to pick your brain on that. When you're working with clients, um, you may be full, you've taken time in worship and prayer, and you're good to go, you're full, but can you spot it in people? Can you spot it when you're working with people, those who are drained spiritually, who have an empty tank? And then what is the approach to help them in that area?
Oh gosh, that's so good. One of the things I was thinking on when you were just talking about is also, speaking of the importance of like grace real quick, is that
Yeah.
along with moms, dads, this is really to anybody, is my house is really dirty every day. Like
Yeah.
like there's what are, I don't even have words for that. It's like you're gonna have to be okay with having some areas in your life where you're gonna have to give yourself
Yeah.
grace.
Exactly.
Like the house is gonna be dirty, or maybe you didn't get all the lesson plans that you thought were, important for your child, since we're all pretty much homeschooling right now.
Right.
So really giving yourself grace that not everything's gonna be perfect the way you want. Um,
Good.
but going back to your question, I think the way that I recognize it in other people, I put myself in their shoes a lot of times, and this is just going from my personal experience in a dance fitness class. They can feed off me when they probably can tell I've had a bad day.
Mm.
I really strive hard to kind of put on that face and work through it and say, once I get there, everything is going to be good. I'm going to feel that energy. I'm going to really just mold into that instructor role. But once you get into a community and they know you and you know them, they can pick up
Right.
on that. And you're right, I can kind of pick up on them. So one thing I have kind of trained myself to do, and I've learned this from other leaders in the fitness world, especially in dance fitness, I've watched them and I've seen the energy that it creates. I can usually spot when someone's in a class and it's either they're not as engaged with me as they used to be, or typically are, or maybe like you can just tell on their face they're not as
Yeah.
excited to be there.
Right.
You can tell in their body language. And so one thing I personally will do while I'm teaching is I like to interact with them as the music's on while we're dancing. So I'll just go up to them and just, not in their face, but I'm just kind of like, let's go. Come
Yeah.
on, Sarah. Come on. It just almost, you can almost see it brightens their day, because they're like, you came out off the stage to come be right by me and
Absolutely.
encourage me. So it's almost like making that connection, like, I see you, I notice you, I can tell you're struggling a little bit today, and I'm coming over here to empower you, and I'm going to smile at you, and I'm going to encourage you and say, no, give me what you got. I know you have more in you. And so again, it's just that connections. People need to feel like you see them. There may be 70 people in a class and there may be 5 people in the class, but if they don't feel like they are seen, I think it's to where they could just walk into class and it's the same old,
Right.
and they could leave in the kind of like that down spirit. And so that's one thing that I've kind of really focused on, is making sure people are really seen. I make eye contact. I let them know, like, you're here, you're special. Like, I'm
Yeah.
blessed that you're in the class.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
I believe that one of the reasons people shy away from community is because of what you touched on, because you're vulnerable, and once you become known, your secrets come out. People learn you, and some people don't want to be learned. I think that they do want to be learned, but they're just not maybe familiar with that. They're not sure. Here's what it comes down to. Everybody wants to be loved and accepted, and they're not sure they're going to be loved and accepted if people truly know who they are. And that's just what happens in community. Inevitably, if you spend enough time with someone, even if it's 1 hour a week in a fitness class, eventually people are going to learn something more about you, and they're going to be able to pick up on facial cues and energy, and they're going to start learning about you. And so I think that's one reason why I believe people shy away from community. I keep on going to community because I feel like it's so central to who we are and how we're made, and it's central to our success. And I think it's one of the reasons I'm doing this right here, is to keep a fire under community, a community with coaches, and a community with those just out there that we're working with. But I just want to emphasize to anybody listening is, don't shy away from community because you're afraid of being hurt, or you're afraid that you won't be accepted, because the right community will accept you. And it doesn't mean that every community is going to be a fit for you, but there is a community that is right for you. And, I would recommend Lindsay. Her community is amazing. The energy is strong. So get connected with her as a coach and the community of ladies, and probably some men that are out there in this community. So I love to find healthy, strong communities and then send people to it, because we need it. We were made for community.
You're right. And that's well, first of all, you're so nice. And thank you so much for even honoring me with that. But I think you're right now. What you touched on, like keeping that fire going, that's another thing I'm really seeing is, what are we going to do when we go back? Are people going to go back to their community? Or are they going to just fade off? And so that was a great point you just touched on, is ensuring. That's another responsibility I think we all have. In this industry as coaches, is if we don't keep them engaged, who's going to say that they're going to even come back?
Right. And the last thing we want is for people to isolate in this time period, and then after this is over, to maintain that isolation, because that's a very real possibility, is that people get used to just staying in their house and hibernating, and then they've got to get out. And so I think that we have to constantly be encouraging people and reminding them, hey, this is ending. This will pass. And so be thinking out there in the future when you're going to come out of your house and engage again. So, because it's going to happen.
No, that's a great point, because I think people are like, well, this is just like a long summer break. But, for me, I'm like, oh no, we're going to get through this. Like,
right.
Don't get comfortable on this screen. Like, I'm going to see you again face to face. And maybe just giving them that kind of expectation of like, no, I expect to see you again. I want to see you again. Stay engaged. You're right.
And I think that people are going to be so hungry for the connection and so refreshed when they finally get that, actual hug from you, and that face to face, that sweat slinging in their face, and they're like, I actually love this. I miss it.
I miss your sweat.
Nothing like it. And well, let everybody know how they can get in contact with you and join this community.
Well, thanks. Yeah, so most of my community right now for online classes, I'm doing it on Facebook Live. And I have a private group. It's just under Lindsay's online dance fitness class. But you can actually just go to my page, which is Lindsay Amilian, and get connected through there. I'm also on Instagram, which is Lindsay Amilian _ wellness. But as far as like the dance community, if you want to do that, that's more so on Facebook
Yeah.
right
And
now.
talk just a minute about the wellness side of things because it's so important. Once again, especially in this time when maybe you can't be as active as you would like to be, but that's when you put double emphasis on the food. So when activity level goes down, you have to double up your activity, your focus on food and health and nutrition. So speak just a little bit about that because it's so important.
Yeah, no, it definitely is because you're right. Not everyone's going to be as active as we typically were, or maybe even push themselves as much as they could
Yeah.
right now. So, the thing with nutrition, very big on that right now, is keeping the immune system thriving. As we all know, with what's going on in the world right now, there's so many things we could be doing to boost your immunity. But I think this is a good time in our world to almost flip the switch and start over and
Mm.
say, let's start living proactively and not necessarily always reactively to something. And so keeping the foundation for, your immune system and wellness and keeping healthy nutrition as like the forefront thing that you want to focus on right now is really, really, really big. And so something I do with my clients and even on my pages as I'm, posting on social media is just talking specifically to that is
Yeah.
that don't always get stuck in reactive living. Like, what do you need to do and what do I need to help educate you on starting from the bare minimum, the bare essentials to keep the immune system thriving? Because through all this, I hope it's a jump start and a kind of a wake up call for people to say, we don't have to be living in fear.
Yeah.
God does not give us a spirit of fear, but he gives us a power of sound mind, and we have the responsibility to take care of our bodies. And I hope that this is a good time just to say, what do we need to cut out that is actually doing more damage to the body that could set you up to be more in a vulnerable population for something like a virus to get to you. And so one thing I'm really big right now is just talking about the fact that if you can kind of retrain your mind right now as like a reset button and say, my body is a host, and a host is usually the thing that is setting up whether the host gets more ill or stays more healthy and thrives.
Right.
So looking at yourself is like not just me and what I want to eat or what I want to do, but it's like, what does the host need to thrive and be resilient? Because that's what you want to focus on, so that it's almost like this lean, mean, attacking machine when things come its way, regardless of fitness. So fitness is not necessarily just the only ticket to your health, but truly nutrition, supporting the immune system. That's your number one line of defense.
Yeah, it's so good. We can talk about immune fitness, getting your immune system in shape. That's so good. Reset. I love it. It's an opportunity. Again, we constantly, is this a well, it's an opportunity. This whole thing is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to learn more about ourselves, to explore new avenues of online training, an opportunity to reset our immune system. It's so good. So
Yes.
I'll get all of your links and I'll put them on the along with this recording and everything, so people can click on that and just go straight to you. And so just want to encourage you guys. This is a amazing instructor, woman, wife, leader, and she'll be able to give you what you need. So I appreciate your time, Lindsay. And
Yes, well, thank you. And can I just say I'm grateful for you, because I think it's refreshing also to have leaders like yourself in our community that don't just focus on physical health. I think that you and what you're doing too is the real deal. So all of your community, you guys are blessed by him, that he has that instilled within him from God, that it's not just physical, but he's given you all around health. He's given you emotional, physical,
yes.
spiritual. So I'm just like, thank you for being you in our community. I think you're doing great things.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yes. All right. Well, we'll stay in touch. And
Okay.
thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Jake. We'll see you guys later.
All right. See
Bye.
you.